I go with going live with Riverside and YouTube and um, my Martifacts and Other Things That Matter Substack, which just started. So I'm gonna wait just a minute because it looks like it looks like the YouTube and Substack goes quickly, but connecting to LinkedIn takes a little longer. So, but looks like it's connecting. Anyway, I want to, oops, yes. So this is a new thing for me. So I broke my pinky finger and had to have surgery last Friday. So it is yeah, now it's recovery. So anyway, hello and welcome to Martifacts and Other Things That Matter, my second try, my second round of experimentation with going live through Riverside and going out to LinkedIn and Substack and my YouTube channel. So, as I checked before last time, it is all working, and I will get on a schedule that will be a little bit more consistent in June. So the idea is to have twice a month, Monday Martifacts or Martifacts Mondays and other things that matter. And so that's the plan. And just coming briefly today, because of course I have this and still recovering and lots of doctor's visits for me and my mom. But I figured I'd come on anyway and have a couple of people lined up for the future lives. More people are saying yes to them, so I'm excited about that. And I'm thinking 11 o'clock Eastern um, for these lives every other Monday. The weeks that I'm not publishing my pre recorded podcast and YouTube show called Things That Matter with Marty McNabb. So I'm thinking about doing this starting in June. And thank you all for going along on this ride in this experiment of uh, telling the stories of the things that matter. And I was walking this morning because gotta walk. It's gorgeous here in Vermont. I got a chance to see a second spring arrive because spring had already gone by well over a month ago in Albuquerque. And so I got to see it here. And so I was walking this morning and I was thinking, I never got my mother not being a people person at all. um, I not never got raised like some of my friends going to museums and historical societies. Um, it just wasn't part of my upbringing. And as an adult, I lived in New York City for 28 years, and in that time, although I get overwhelmed with people and overwhelmed with experiences, too much stuff, I found a way. If I said I'll go for 45 minutes or an hour, I could, and because you live in New York City and most of the public museums and historical societies, you could go into for a suggested donation. A friend of mine encouraged me just pay what you want and go in, and therefore I ended up getting more into a habit of going to museums and historical societies. One of the things that I found, however, is that I found the exhibitions a bit flat, a bit. Um, I don't know what I wouldn't say shallow because I don't want to disregard the work of the curators and the people that create the exhibitions and everything. But I think um, what didn't connect me to the experience is that the story had already been chosen and told. There were things that had been picked, and there was a little write-up that told you the story of that thing. And so there wasn't an interaction between the object and me, or who created it or whatever. It was just sort of like up on the wall or in the cases, and that was it. It was a story told. And what I ended up realizing is that that is probably one of the reasons why I love show and tales, hosting these events, show and tales, Thing Tide Show and Tales. I've hosted over 450 of them in the last 12 years, I think it has been, maybe even more, maybe 13 years. And what I love is that people bring objects from their own homes, their own AKA personal museums, the things they surround themselves with and adorn themselves with, and they share the story. And you have the opportunity, not while they're sharing, of course, but you have an opportunity to get to know them more and understand the story of the thing that matters to them. And that you can, after the story sharing event, have the opportunity to ask more questions. There's an interaction. It's not stagnant. It's not, the story hasn't been told and that's it. And that's the beauty of people coming back to these events and continuing to share the stories. Because what I've seen is how our stories can change, right? But telling them gives us um, that recognition that we are the ones that tell this story, and that the story doesn't have to remain stagnant, and it can change, and we are the changers of that story. So all of those things are the reasons why I love the experience of gathering for these story sharing events called Show and Tales. And so that was one thing on my walk this morning that I thought about, is why this matters so much, why I am drawn to this. And of course, in the first one, the first live, I spoke to you about why uh, that obviously it's not that I think things matter, it's the stories that get attached to them that often do. And that and why, because my parents are not great storytellers themselves, and I never grew up, like, we moved so many times that I never got a chance to like hang out with my family and tell stories over and over again and hear stories over and over again. I never had that experience. And so and that I've also find for myself and my parents and a lot of people, that sharing stories in through the written word is not comfortable. It's not a happy place. It's not the way that they naturally express themselves and want to share stories. And stories are the way that we connect with one another, that we get to know each other. Like, think about growing up when you were getting to meet and connect and maybe become friends with somebody. It's like this sharing of the stories. And sometimes those stories actually came through sharing the stories of that favorite baseball card, or some souvenir or something, that these little things, that you were able to share. And of course, I think about show and tell from elementary school, right? And how it's like, I joke about it being the Toastmasters for toddlers, the whole idea of encouraging children to feel comfortable in front of a room, and getting up and sharing their story, and somehow having that object, that thing that they could hold on to, helped make them feel less afraid of standing up in front and sharing their stories. And that's what I found at my events as well for adults, is that it's hard sometimes to just be up in front. And needless to say, at Quest 2026 in Santa Fe, when I was asked by Diana Place to share my story, I was nervous because even though I can facilitate story sharing, and obviously I share a bit of my story while I do it, being up there by myself and having to share my story is a little more uncomfortable. So, of course, I brought things that mattered to me and I brought them up on the stage and I shared my stories through these things that I keep, the things that matter and the things I will leave behind. So, speaking of things, my I think I got this love of cards through my mom. And she was a collector of cards and she was a keeper of cards that we sent her. Now, needless to say, she was not a card writer. She didn't send a lot of the cards, but we ended up going through in this house, going through several drawers and finding a bunch and doing a little tag sailing of them. And we'll do some more. But I've always loved cards, and I am not as good at it as I would like to be. But I during COVID, I think is when I was like, I just want to write more cards. Not a quantitative, I can't do that. I don't know about anybody else if you can or can't do that, but I'm not good at that. But like how many cards and how many books, I just totally rebel about that. But I just said I want to write more, and I did. I definitely did during the first couple of years of COVID, and I've dropped off, and I want to get better at it. But about 6, 8 months ago, a friend of the family um, died, and I know, we weren't super, super close, but I am so grateful to have connected with this family. And I am still connected with one of her daughters and her brother and sister, and had the pleasure of reconnecting with them when I went to New Bedford last August. And sadly, I found out about her death in probably September or October. And I ended up going out and right away buying some sympathy cards, hand painted, um, these beautiful one, Robin Scully Warren. No website or anything, but this one actually had some on the back as well. And I'm pretty sure this came from Unicorn, where my honorary sister works, Unicorn in Woodstock, Vermont. So I ended up getting a couple, one for her daughter, one for her brother, and I have carried these for the last like out to Albuquerque, well, out to Salt Lake City when I took my mom's kitty out there, Bella, who I affectionately called the fucking cat because she'd wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was driving across the country and I tried to get some sleep. Anyway, but unfortunately, she did not travel back with me. She traveled back, unfortunately. Her ashes traveled back with my mom, and we spread them a couple of days ago. But anyway, so these cards traveled with me in Brooklyn and on my way across the country about, I think it's about 2,500 miles to Salt Lake City, and then down to Albuquerque, which seems like it's close, but it's close to a 10-hour drive. And then spent the whole winter with me in Albuquerque. And anyway, I'm just so grateful to have finally written these cards and am putting them in the mail today. And I just wanted to say it's a reminder, if you need one, that don't worry, don't stress if you don't get around to sending sympathy cards right away. because people who have lost somebody that they love or somebody who has died, and they a lot of times there's a lot of effort in the beginning to be there to support them, to offer them a shoulder to cry on, and food and everything. There's a big effort in the beginning after a death, and it slowly peters off. And so don't think that, and this is what I have to tell myself, and I've learned from my end of life, my death care, my last responder community, that it's when you're thinking of it, even if it takes you a year, even if it takes you a couple of years, you know, don't don't think, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't need to do it because you get upset at yourself for not getting it in the mail right away. And so these are going in the mail. So I encourage you anytime you're thinking about somebody, and also keep on bringing up their names and talking about these people who are no longer here in the earth, on in their bodies on the earth, on this planet, but keep on bringing up their names, unless of course the person that is has lost this person and is grieving this person asks you not to. But don't feel um, like, oh, I don't want to bring it up because it might bring up hard feelings. Those feelings are there. Grieving takes a long time. They're always going to be there. And so often people appreciate you bringing up their names and sending sympathy cards, and sending texts and saying something reminded me of so and so, and in this case it's Nancy, and I will always remember her. And one of the things that I realized after writing many sympathy cards during the first couple of years of COVID and losing so many people, um, was how sympathy cards are like, they really are like love letters, because you're talking about the love, and and thank you cards are too. They're a type of love letter, and people always appreciate getting them, even if they're months and months or years afterwards. So, anyway, that is my little show and tell, my things that matter. And I keep cards, and I will share some of them. And I thank you. So this is my number two, and I'm trying to keep it to 20 minutes because I know everybody's time is short, and we're very busy. And I thank you to anyone who's joined me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.